Hey, happy Friday. It's August 21st, right? Yeah, August 21st. Okay, had to think there for a second. It's Friday. I'm meteorologist Brian McClure. Figured I'd give you a tropical update on this afternoon. Just got in from mowing the lawn. If anybody's ever mowed lawns in Florida in the summertime, it's almost like you need hazard pay. Whew, brutal. So then I had to jump in the pool and then, of course, cool down. Hey, I'm wearing my St. Martin shirt today. Check it out. Yep. Visited there a couple years ago. If you've ever been to St. Martin, it's really cool. You've got the Dutch side, you've got the French side, so you can kind of bounce back and forth depending on what food you want for the day. It's a pretty cool place to visit. I bring that up because Laura, Tropical Storm Laura, is just to the east-southeast of a lot of the islands out there in the northeastern Caribbean. To tell you the truth, let me zoom in and show you what we're looking at here. There, okay, right here. There you can see St. Martin right up in here. Here's the center of Laura, what pitiful little storm it is. Technically, I don't even think it should be declared a storm right now. It's really disorganized, but whatever. There it is. And then you can see Antigua and Barbuda and the Montserrat's right out there. If you ever remember the volcano erupting, that was right there. There's St. Kitts right in there. All right, so that kind of gives you an idea of where we're talking about. So that's where Laura is. Now, just to kind of give you a good idea and perspective, yesterday's video, I talked about if it stayed on a more southerly track, it would have a less likely chance of strengthening, because it's going to interact with a lot of islands and eventually mountainous islands, and so it would have a lot less lower chance. Well, it's taking the far southerly track, and for a couple of reasons. There was a lot of wind shear right up in here. I talked about that yesterday. I talked about a lot of dry air up in here. So it's as if it can't get its act together, and it keeps trying to like redevelop down to the southwest, and that's what's been happening today. To tell you the truth, at the 11 a.m. advisory, to put this into perspective, here was the point. And then here was your forecast track. Well, look, already at the 2 p.m. advisory, or the 2 p.m. update, look, it's already south already after just a couple hours. So it just goes to show you how, number one, there's a reason why we put a cone, a forecast cone out here. Number two, it goes to show you how the atmosphere is a fluid dynamic where we have to keep reacting to what is actually happening, even though we might be forecasting something. So let me bounce back out a little bit here and give you a good idea of what's happening. There was dry air and wind shear up in this area, so it's redeveloping southward. Because of that, it's going to take more of a southerly route, probably past Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, or Dominican Republic and Haiti. Because of that, if you look at the forecast track now, it really interacts with most landmasses across the Caribbean. That will help not only Florida, but the United States in general, because it will keep it weaker. So for anybody out there hyping this, wish casting, saying, oh man, you better watch out, the water's warm and it's going to become a Cat 5 at any second, they're not looking at science, okay? And I'll be the first to admit, it's an inexact science. We're not always right. But as a true meteorologist, I can tell you right now, at some point, you just have to face the facts. And that is, anybody that's hoping for this thing to be like an Irma, a Maria, a massive storm, it's not. It's very disorganized, and it's barely hanging on even as a tropical depression or storm right now. To tell you the truth, what most of our computer models even say is that when it gets past Puerto Rico and goes here through Dominican Republic and Haiti and Cuba, that it's actually technically an open wave. I doubt they'll ever drop it to that, because for political reasons you just don't want to, but generally speaking, I just don't think it's going to act like a big tropical storm as it passes through there. I think it's going to act like a wave, basically a day's worth of showers and storms with breezy winds as it passes. And quite honestly, I think we're going to get the same in Florida, regardless of whatever you want to call it, regardless of whatever it is south of the Keys when it arrives. I think we'll get some kind of squally like showers for a day as it passes by, even in Florida. All right, all that being said, yesterday when I did my video, I said all along the best chance it has of really intensifying is when it gets away from dry air, when it gets away from wind shear, and that would probably be somewhere right out in here. And that still kind of looks like that's the best case scenario for this. I'll be honest with you though, the longer it goes, weak like this, disorganized like this, and through all those islands, it might never really be able to redevelop. But still, that being said, if it does, it's probably going to be in the Gulf. And that is why, if you've ever wondered, well, I don't understand, if it's so weak, why do they keep calling for a Category 1 hurricane? Well, because think of it almost like a just-in-case forecast. You don't want to tell the public, hey, head into the weekend and don't worry about anything in Louisiana. No, you kind of want to tell the public, hey, this is pretty weak, and it doesn't look like a huge deal, but just keep an eye on it just in case. You see what I'm saying? That's really what we're doing here. You're basically saying the forecast is a weak, disorganized storm going through the Caribbean across the islands, but if it can get right in this area, who knows? I mean, after all, the Gulf of Mexico is historic for big hurricanes. Now, the tropical depression down here, which will become Marco at some point today or tonight or tomorrow, right down in here, it's starting to look a little better organized, but again, it's been weak also. It has a decent chance of organizing and becoming stronger also as it heads northwest. But you'll notice that they take it to a Category 1 hurricane and then back to a tropical storm. Well, I want to show you what's going on with all these. Before I do that though, so I was out here and I was looking out here, I was reminiscing about going to St. Martin and all that, and I was looking at the track out here. I remembered that when I went to St. Martin, I went to Maho Beach. If you ever go there, go to that beach. It's really, really neat. You can stand right here on this beach, right there. And if you notice, there is a runway right there. It's really neat. Their airport is right on the beach. And so you can stand there and watch the planes come right over you. I mean, it looks like you can touch them. They're so close. So that was kind of a cool feature when I went there. Now, obviously, because of the pandemic and because of, lack of tourism, I doubt they're getting many planes. And you can see there's hardly anybody out there today. But yeah, I mean, just a cool feature when we get back to whatever normal is. If you go to Maho Beach, St. Martin, that's a really cool place. All right, let's take a look at the satellite and give you a good idea of what is going on. Let me change my little crayon here to a brighter color. Okay, so here you go. There's Laura, and then right down in here is what is going to be Marco. It's tropical depression right now, but it's going to be Marco at any time. Let me zoom in first on Laura. This is such a weak storm right now. Hurricane Hunter aircraft have been flying in it, and they even admitted last night when they flew in it that it wasn't a storm, but they kept it as a storm just out of precaution. And then technically they, found some strong winds today, but just to kind of put into perspective how weak this is, let me stop it right there. Do you know where the center is? It would look like it was back in here, right? Nope. The center is supposedly right here. There's nothing there. Yeah. So you've got some showers and storms out in front. You have broad circulation, absolutely. There's some here, there's some here, there's some here, there's some here, there's some back here and here. But the point is, so everything's going around this general circulation, absolutely. But the point is, it's highly disorganized. So with it down there, basically what it's going to do is it's going to try and go like that. And when it does, it's going to head right for those islands. And again, they become very mountainous islands. And so I just don't see it really strengthening a whole lot in the short term. It's down the road when it has a better chance. Let me show you what Marco, well, again, future Marco, what it's going to look like. There it is down there. So to give you perspective, this is the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. So Cancun is right up in here, and Cozumel right over in here, and this is Belize right here, okay? So let me let this loop for you. Right there is the center. Now, believe it or not, this one looks better. And the funny thing is, this is the one that's not technically declared a storm yet, but yet it has the better circulation, the better intact storms rotating around the center. And I would predict that within the next 12 hours, not only will this become a storm, but this one has the better chance in the short term of becoming stronger and intensifying rather quickly, because this area right in here, basically anything right here, warm water, no wind shear, nothing affecting it. So this is going to be the area as it drifts towards kind of that Cancun area. it has a pretty good chance of strengthening into a tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane before it passes over the Yucatan. Then past that point in time is where everybody's questioning, okay, then does it become a hurricane? Does it stay a weak tropical storm? And those are the question marks. Well, let's go over all that, all right? First things first, because you kind of have to break it down based on where they're both tracking. I want to show you why Laura is going where it's going. This, on the computer model, is a high pressure. Okay, so don't worry about the colors and all that, but basically this color signifies really strong high pressure. This would be Laura right down in here, and Marco would be, or again, future Marco would be right in here. The reason why Laura is going to have to go west, and I explained this yesterday, but I want to make this very, very sure that people understand this. It has to go west. This is like a fence. This high pressure is saying, no, you cannot come north. So it's not like Isaias. It's not like Dorian. It's not like those. This is staying weak and going due west like that, okay? And by the way, also, I think one of the biggest reasons, and I talked about this yesterday too, one of the biggest reasons why I think it is staying weaker and kind of underperforming is because of two things: getting squashed by a little bit of shear from this high pressure, and also speed shear. It's moving so quickly that it can't ever seem to get its act together. In other words, it's almost like saying, hey, the low-level center's moving like this, and the mid-level center can't keep up. So they can't really get going together. So I think that's happening with that one. And by the way, with future Marco, the tropical depression down here in the Western Caribbean, the high pressure isn't affecting it too much. It's too far away. But this is what we call a dip in the jet stream, a trough right back in here in the Gulf. That is affecting it. So here's the depression right here. And the reason why it wants to go that way is because storms want to go wherever there is lower pressure. In other words, high pressure is like a fence saying, no, can't come here. Lower pressure is like welcoming. Come on, come this way. And so it wants to go and gravitate towards that trough, that dip in the jet stream. That is why they are both going where they're going. This one's going to go like this. This one's going to go like this. Now, just by pure luck and just circumstances, people are saying, well, then they both go in the same spot. Well, not really. They do kind of both end up about in the same area. But again, that's just pure luck. That just happens to be because this one's going here and this one just kind of comes behind it. It doesn't mean they're going to go to the exact same spot. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up very close to each other. But that's just, it's just pure luck. All right, so let's go out in time. And what I want you to notice, let me go all the way past this weekend to about, okay, let's go all the way to Monday. How about we do that? Yeah, let's go to Monday. All right, what I want you to notice is this dip in the jet stream is gone. It's gone off the map, okay? And this high pressure is not gone. It is still right here. So with that in mind, at this point in time, the computer model is basically saying, well, if there's something left of Laura, it's probably right about in here, because again, it's tracked right along the southern edge of that high, and it's going like this. It cannot go north. No, it's not going to do it. It's going to go around the high. So as long as this high stays right in here, then guess what? This storm's going to go around it, and that is why you have the forecast tracking into the Gulf, maybe moving like this, but in all reality, it's probably just going to try and keep going westward because this high is nudged so far out to the west like this. So, there will be some small variations in like where in here and can it strengthen in here? Yes, but in the short term, no, I really don't think there's a lot of variation. In terms of future Marco, I think it would be somewhere right in here between Louisiana and Texas. And you might be thinking, well, gosh, that one has a really, really good chance of like bombing out and becoming the strong one. It does to a certain extent, but here's something I want to show you. I've shown you this map a lot before, and I know it can get confusing, so let me explain it. This is wind shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere, right in here, and also right in here. Okay, so at this point in time, on Monday morning, the predicted area of whatever's left of Laura would be probably right about in here, and the predicted path of whatever future Marco is probably right about in here. Well, Marco would be moving like that, and Laura would be moving like that. Laura would actually be moving away from a lot of wind shear. Hence, see what I mean? It might be moving towards an area where it could maybe finally develop better. Marco would be moving towards stronger wind shear. This right here. So that's why I'm not really sure if it can ever get its act together all the way to the coastline. Now, this could change, obviously. That's a long ways out still. But my point here is everybody always wants to pretend like, well, the next storm is going to be like the last one. It's going to be like Harvey all over again. It's going to be like Dorian. It's going to be like Irma. It's going to be like Maria. It just doesn't work that way. The atmosphere is always different and every storm is different. So as of right now, I actually see a lot of good news for the U.S. in terms of even if Marco develops into a hurricane, it might run into this wind shear and then weaken again as it heads towards shore. But again, remember, this is why we watch these things, because it could all change. Laura could be weak all weekend long, maybe even almost fall apart. And then it gets into the Gulf and goes, I'm finally in a good area, now I want to develop. That's possible. Hence why the long-term forecast is just holding on to that potential for a hurricane. With Marco, future Marco, I could see it strengthening really fast, weakening a little bit over the Yucatan Peninsula, then strengthening really fast again, and then it weakening really fast as it approaches land. I could see it going up and down like that. If this wind shear does not get out of the way over here, I just don't see it bombing out as a Cat 3-4 hurricane and rumbling towards Texas or Louisiana. I think it would be really hard for it to do that because of all the things in front of it. Yes, the water's plenty warm enough, but remember, there's so much more that goes into forecasting than warm water. The water's warm every year in the Gulf and the Caribbean. That's why we get tropical storms. But it's not what keeps them chugging along at strong intensities. If that was the case, everything would be a Cat 5 every year in the Caribbean and the Atlantic and the Gulf because the water's always warm. So there's a lot more that goes into this. If you look at the surface winds, this is kind of neat. Let's go through some variables here. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so this would be like tonight, the predicted winds. Let me change my little crayon color here. Okay, so this is kind of an idea of about where Laura will be. And again, future Marco right in here. What you'll notice on both of these is the strongest of winds are on the northeast side. Okay? That tells you right there it's not a strong organized tropical storm because if it was, these winds would be wrapped all the way around. They're not. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to notice. Let's go forward in time. Let's go all the way to like Sunday morning. What you notice here is it looks like Marco, future Marco, has progressed northward across the Yucatan Peninsula and is somewhere right out here in the Gulf now, and the strongest of winds are on the northeastern side still. It could be a stronger tropical storm, absolutely. It could even be on a Cat 1 hurricane at that time. But what this is showing is the strongest winds are still imbalanced. And what this is showing is, believe it or not, that Laura is an open wave past Hispaniola, and these are just strong winds on the northern side, which every tropical wave has. All right, let's go to Monday morning, and right there you have what is Laura's trying to make a comeback. There it is, right about in there, and these winds are trying to get stronger right there. Okay, so maybe, yeah, at the very least it's trying. Marco's definitely getting stronger and more organized. Look at how these winds now are wrapping around. Okay, all right, so that's Monday morning, and again, this is just modeling. Okay, I'm just showing you what I'm seeing. I'm not predicting that's exactly what it'll be like, but what I am showing you is this is how the atmosphere is working. So this is what the thinking is at this time because of that. Okay, let's go a little bit further out to right. I'll tell you what, let's stop it right there. That's Monday night. I want you to notice two things. Number one, the future of Laura appears to be like, hey, even if it fell apart, it looks like it tries to get its act together again in the Gulf. Shocker. Remember what I've been saying. It still is disorganized, or weak, I should say. The winds are all on one side, but the point is it's trying. Marco, on the other hand, finally looks like it's wrapping its winds almost all the way around, so it would probably be organized at that time. Could be a Cat 1 hurricane at that time, hence why the forecast shows what it shows. But I want you to notice, though, watch Marco after that. Interesting. See how it kind of goes up and down? Huh. It's almost as if even the modeling says, gosh, I don't know, like maybe some strong winds there, maybe, oh, wait, but then it shifts off to the west. You see my point? I could see it maybe teetering, going either way. Maybe Cat 1, but maybe pulling back to a tropical storm. It's kind of hard to tell because, again, Marco at that point would be approaching maybe Texas, but there'd be strong wind shear in here. So can it go all the way to the coast strong? I don't know, kind of hard to tell. Let's go forward with, again, future Laura, assuming it holds together all the way into the Gulf. And same thing. It looks like, okay, all of a sudden it tries to make a comeback. And it looks like it's trying to wrap its winds all the way around the center. So you see my point here. You can't give up on either one. You can't just say, hey, blow it off. They're not going to be anything. But at the same time, I'm not the type of meteorologist that hypes and goes, oh my gosh, they're going to be the worst storms ever. It doesn't look like that right now. It looks like both storms are going to have headwinds, are going to have wind shear, are going to have some dryer to work with, are going to have islands and mountains to work with. And so because of that, they don't look like they're either one are in perfect environments. They're not the Dorians, the Irmas, the Michaels, the Marias of the past. And that's a good thing. We don't want major disasters everywhere. So that's a good thing. But I'm just showing you all this stuff because even though things can change and variables can change, honestly, this isn't a lot different than the video that I did yesterday for you when I said, hey, looks kind of weak in the short term. If they're going to strengthen, it's probably going to be down the road in the Gulf. So this is what we're looking at today. All right, I can't think of too much else to show. Precipitation doesn't matter that much. Sometimes I like to show the moisture graphic just because it's kind of fun and cool. Yeah, I'm a weather dork. I like to look at moisture graphics. I know, it's weird, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about here so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Here, these like purplish, darker red colors indicate moisture batches with the tropical systems. As a meteorologist, I like to look at these because it gives you a hint on where you can get flooding rains, heaviest rains. So here in Florida, I'm not only a meteorologist, I've kind of had to, by default, become a tropical expert after 20 years of covering tropical storms in Florida. You just can't survive in Florida if you don't as a meteorologist. You really got to know your tropical weather. And so we predict a lot of our weather down here in Florida based on what we call precipitable water, moisture. Okay, what I want you to notice is both of these features and how just because they might stay weak or even if they get strong, the moisture doesn't go away. So tropical waves, even if it's not a storm, can produce just as much rain as a tropical storm can. So let's take this all the way out to Monday morning. And what I want you to notice is you have this massive amount of moisture here going towards Texas or Louisiana, kind of hard to tell with Marco. And then you have this massive amount of moisture with, again, future Laura or maybe downgraded Laura moving westward like that. So the point is, regardless of development, exact track, both of these features are going to send a lot of moisture into the Gulf regions. So for example, look at this. This is Monday evening. Look at all this moisture coming up into Florida. Look at all this moisture coming up into Texas and Louisiana. That is why, as a meteorologist, we look at these types of things because no matter what the intensity and exact track, you could be looking at some very, very heavy rains. Now, we're used to that in Florida. But as we've seen in past years in Texas and some other low-lying areas in the South Gulf region, if they get too much rain, they get some serious flooding. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, too, that some of these areas, even if these storms stay weak, could be looking at very, very heavy rains. All right, I think I'll end on that. Good Friday afternoon. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Don't stress too much about these storms this weekend, but obviously if you live in the Southern Gulf region, anywhere from Texas all the way to Florida, it'd be a good idea to keep an eye on them. It looks like Monday, Tuesday time frame. They could be moving through the Gulf at that time. All right, have a great weekend.